friends. We're visiting a project of mine that's on a ranch property outside of Austin, Texas. Gorgeous property, amazing architect, and just the most fantastic clients ever. It's really been a dream project. But there's one thing in particular about this project that has made it especially good, and that's that the design, the house, everything has been really, not easy, that's not the right word, but it has really been a dream for me as a builder, from a building science, from a mechanical, from a logistics perspective. And a big reason why is because this client, shortly after they hired the architect, went to an engineer that I worked with for a long time, Positive Energy, and they did a fairly new design service that takes a look at the schematic design, basically the model for the house, and says, okay, how are we, if this is the early schematic design, the rough drawing basically, how are we going to build that in a way that the house is going to be comfortable, that the house is going to be durable, that the house is going to meet the client's needs? What's the daylighting look like? And so we're going to talk today about something that I've really wanted to do over the years, and I think probably the builders watching this will resonate with this, and that's how do we get upstream of the process. Now, if you're a design builder, maybe you're already doing this, but if you're like me, I really don't do design services, I work with architects. How do we get upstream and influence the design in a way that's going to make a positive outcome? You know, most of the time as a builder, we get plans that are fully baked. They may not be terrific. They may have some problems. Tons of glass facing west, for instance. No room for ductwork. No waterproofing because there's zero overhangs. And then I have to figure out how to make that house work for the client and keep them out of trouble. It's not always easy, but in this project, we did it right. We're going to show you some lessons learned. We're going to talk about the service that, of course, you could do, and I'd highly recommend if you have the budget for it. But I think you're going to learn some things no matter what price point your project's on that I think are really going to help you from a building science perspective. Today's video from my ranch project, let's get going. Okay, y'all, so welcome to our ranch project. Let me introduce you to a couple key players. Y'all probably met Daniel Glauser on my team. Daniel's one of our amazing builders. And Christoph Irwin. Christoph, thank you for coming out with me today, brother. So, Christoph, what we're talking about is kind of the pre-planning that we did on this building with the help of your company services. And I'm hoping that on this video we can not just show what we did and kind of this awesome house that we are building together, but also give you guys watching this some really good takeaways that can help you, whether you're a design build, whether you're thinking about building a house, or whether you're like me and you often get kind of fully developed plans that you have to then turn into a good house that's well built, that's comfortable, that's not going to have problems for your homeowners. So first off, Christoph, tell me where you started on this project and kind of what your deliverables were.
Yeah. So we were really lucky that we got invited to participate in this project very early on. So the project was in concept. We knew architectural massing, and we got to plan mechanical massing. And we got to do it with access to the homeowners. So there's nothing more important than a detailed owner interview so that the consultants and engineers on the project can work with the architects to make sure that we're taking the owner's, actually there's architectural terms, the owner's project requirements, OPR, and mapping them into a basis of design. A basis of design would be, it's going to have a dehumidifier, it's going to have an ERV, it's going to have a refrigerant-based VRF system. But then to go even one level farther and say, we have the architectural massing, look at the mechanical massing. Where do the lungs of the home, and this is ironic, it looks kind of like lungs, like where do the lungs of the home fit in?
You guys on my videos, if you've been watching, have seen this before. This is a full mechanical design from Positive Energy. They did this on my house. They've done it on a lot of houses where they're showing all the ductwork, they're specifying everything. And then we're able in the field, Daniel, and this house happens to be a Lake Flato house with Benson Wood as the panel contractor who did these outside SIPS walls for us. We're able to lay it out so that all this ductwork that you're seeing here is exactly as designed in this 3D design.
So now this did not happen in concept. This happened coordinated with structural. And with Bensonwood, by the way, you need to be coordinating upstream. I mean, fundamentally, so I'm an engineering consultant. You guys are builders. The best thing we can do is move the design up, is move our influence on the design upstream.
Yep.
So that it streamlines construction, it reduces delays. We don't have as many change orders in the field. Or I wonder how many. Have we had a lot? None. Awesome.
So then show us the kind of concept design that you worked with the architect on.
So just to show you this is up, like this is what we can do now. We can spin our designs. We have this on every single file right now. I didn't hit zoom. We have this on every single design, a QR code that the installing contractor can spin these and look at it on their phone in real time or
That's
on their
amazing.
iPad. Yeah, and that's where the power of Revit that's over there comes in over here. But yeah, so this is our report. This was 3 years ago. And you've got the main zone equipment here. You've got compact ducted systems above bathrooms. I think this one actually became in millwork. But this, when we proposed this system, it was completely fluid. Both our intention for the design and the architectural expression. What they were trying to do is meet, and this is really important, right? So the owners came to the architect here and they said, energy resilience is really important to us. Water resilience is really important to us. Indoor air quality and thermal comfort are very important to us. The building should be really durable. So what we did was we worked with the project team to take those functional outcomes and map those upstream into the design process. And just the point I want to make, the enclosure influences the mechanical systems, which influences the PV sizing, which influences the roof area. The roof area also is the catchment area for the cistern, which needs to understand how much use there's going to be for water. Is there a pool? Is that going to get fed from the rainwater cisterns? And so what I'm saying is, it's like you're handed a Rubik's Cube, and you've got to solve all the sides at once.
Yeah,
you don't just
that's
get to
right.
say, look, it's pretty. You
Yep,
have to really think that there's these functional things, and they're all influencing each other. And that's what we call performance consulting. So Positive Energy is an MEP firm. That's how we got understood in the world. But now 3 years ago, this was our first project.
So how does
went
this
upstream.
translate then,
Yeah,
Christoph,
please.
for this particular building? So this is where Daniel's construction office desk is right here. This is basically the kitchen space.
Yeah.
There's a little dinette over here. Amazing glass with a beautiful, ranch view. But I see this big glass, Christoph, and I think, oh my gosh, how are we going to heat and cool this space? Is this room going to be really hot for my clients and we're
Right.
going to get a call back? How are you able to look at that at the kind of early concept design
Awesome
phase?
question. So what we could do very early on, the architects drew what they thought they wanted, how they wanted to express their aesthetic. We could then map that into, let's talk about the daylight comfort for the clients, the visual comfort. Let's talk about glare, illuminance. Let's talk about thermal comfort. Let's talk about that bomber overhang right there or right there.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to influence all this? So that was happening. The architect was doing the design from I guess you could really say like a visual spatial aesthetic perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of their role. The architect then was given feedback from us to say, yeah, that's how it looks. Here's how it works. And so we could find the right fit. And keep in mind another thing, like I think it was the fact that this was a Bensonwood house, right? This was panelized construction. So assembled here, but designed and built somewhere else. And the fact that that was happening, that was the motivating factor for everyone to say, all right, we really need to do what's called E4, everyone engaging everything early. We need to go upstream and really think how this is going to come together, right? So the fact that this was Bensonwood influenced that here. It's very powerful.
And
But
what
it
did
can
that
happen on
mean?
other projects.
And what did that mean for you, Daniel? Because Bensonwood basically sent you all these panels that you, with a couple Bensonwood carpenters and a bunch of local carpenters, some great local guys, assembled. What does that mean for you in terms of like making a tight envelope or making an insulated envelope?
Well, the plan was set, and we just executed the plan. So we had detailed drawings, things fit together, they were where they were supposed to be. And when it came to the mechanicals, like you could see up here, it was planned already. So where the ducts went was drawn out and planned ahead of time, and that was integrated into the Bensonwood system. So that, for example, this ceiling right here, those main trunk lines, they fit into slots that Bensonwood created for us. So it was just kind of a no-brainer. You just put it together the way that it was designed.
That's pretty awesome. Whereas most of the time we're getting a set of plans, we're having a bunch of sticks dropped off of the job, and then it's our job as builders to put it together so that it's waterproof, so that all the window openings are right. Whereas what we're saying here is the engineer, the smart guys, the building science guys got involved with the architect early, right, Christoph?
So what we did was, like you were asking about those overhangs, you can see we modeled all this. And in fact, we don't just model it statically. We're able to really show you, and this is on a summer day, we're able to show you shading. We're able to have this iterative interaction with the architecture team and say, yeah, here's what we got. We have it, that's solar radiation, so that's thermal comfort. Here's illuminance, and we can send you other versions of these files. But what we had, so right here, so this is daylighting. So that is shown here also. The bubble size is the intensity of the radiation.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah, each one of these circles is a window. The
So
color.
we're facing west here.
Right,
this one's got a red because we've got a lot more intensity through there. And those
We're in this room
individual...
right here, in fact. Yes, sides east and west are getting more than north. And what you have here is every window in the project, and then we're looking at how much energy comes through in a year, right? Wow. And so what we can say is look at these 4 windows and look at these 3 windows, right? So you can see we didn't say every window has to go away. What we said was there's 7 windows in this whole house. Let's be very thoughtful on their shading. And if shading isn't an option, let's think about their specifications. Maybe we have a slightly lower SHGC on those, something like that. But the key is this was happening 3 years ago before there was any CD set.
Right,
Side note on those big windows, we are putting exterior screens for shading that's on the outside of the building.
Which is fantastic. Yeah, let's make a quick note for the video listeners here. Shading is great. It can happen inside and outside a window. If it happens inside a window with a curtain, that heat or that cold, that loss of heat, is inside the house, right? So your mechanical system is going to have to make up for it in some way or another. So interior shading can actually benefit the occupant in the sense of visual comfort or thermal comfort. It doesn't benefit them in sense of how much they pay to heat and cool their house.
Yeah, it's got to be outside.
Exterior shading is always superior.
So when we see these big red bubbles here, if we do interior shades, that heat's still coming in. We still have this big blip on how much BTUs are coming in. But if we do an exterior shade, we can really reduce that.
That's exactly right.
Talk to me about is there a rule of thumb that you think of, Christoph, when you're talking to designers and architects for how much glass you should or could have in a house?
This is a poignant issue for Positive Energy because we love architects. We have architects on staff, right? We love architects and architecture. And we try hard to not be seen as sort of the glass police on the project. But the reality is that overglazing, it's happening in our society.
Yeah,
it's easy to choose glass versus a wall. I mean, go downtown and look at the canyons of glass and steel that have become norms now.
Those new buildings that are nothing but glass are terribly inefficient, even though they maybe are a LEED Gold certified building. Whereas the building that was built in the 50s is probably more comfortable for the occupants and uses less energy, right?
100%. And I'll restrain myself to the interest of
all right, but if you were to restrain yourself, are there any rule of thumbs?
Oh my gosh, yes. So home is shelter, right? Living in a glass box is, as a mammal, I'm not going to experience a sense of shelter in that environment. I also have tens of thousands of thermal receptors on my skin that respond to heat gain and heat loss, right? So if the shelter around me is all glass, the glass gets hot in the winter and cold in the summer. I experience that. I don't know if it's very clear, but everyone should know that all mammals' dominant experience of an indoor space is surface temperature moderated, right? Mm-hmm. So 30 to 40% is air temperature and air movement, 60 to 70%, and it depends on the enclosure. But my dominant thermal experience of a space depends on the surrounding surface temperature. So what I'm getting back to in glass is we want to moderate that. We want to understand that I'm experiencing this space as my personality. I want to feel, connected to nature, which in parentheses, the ultimate connection to nature is outdoor air for ventilation.
Yeah, go outside.
So I want a fantastic view. I want what I want. That's me as a personality. That's me as my stories about what I want. And there's reality to it. Then there's me as a human body in this space, right? And so from that perspective, 20 to 40% is about right.
40% of what?
Oh, a window to wall ratio.
Window to wall ratio.
20 to 40% of the wall can be glass, right? older downtown buildings, those like brownstones and things like that, or the stone older buildings from the 40s and 50s in New York. This gets into the Henry Gifford story with USGBC and LEED. They had 20 to 40% window-to-wall ratios, and the new ones are like 80 to 90% window-to-wall
Too much.
ratios, right? So this home, the architect nailed it. 20% in most of the rest of the house, 40% in the room we're in.
Yeah.
This is what you call the key view moment.
Yeah, this is the big
is
view.
Trophy moment.
We've got a lake beyond. We've got clear ranch views with no neighbors showing.
Yeah.
This is the shot right here, and this is the spot. But then you go to the rest of the house, and you see windows that give you a moment. But the rest of this wall is Benson wood panels that are like R40 or something. And by the way, you see there's crazy air sealing details that are just awesome that Benson Wood has learned in their 40 years or 50 years of construction.
Brings the sustainability upstream.
And it allows Daniel to build this house to a super tight blower door score without him relying on caulking and sealing everything later. Everything's been really thoroughly thought out and vetted. And yes, there's still going to be a little bit of work for Daniel and the guys on the job site later, but this is just ideal.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, this is the ideal project.
Yeah.
We wish everything could look like this.
The work that we're doing in the performance consulting department, it's enclosure and passive systems, which we just talked about. It's mechanical systems and it's resilient energy systems. What we're showing here are heat pumps and heat recovery. These are able to do simultaneous heating and cooling. These can either be in heating or cooling, but either one of these can serve multiple indoor units.
Mm-hmm.
But the point is, we talked about hydronic systems here. We talked about radiant heating and cooling systems here with the owner from day one. And what we decided on was, well, it's sort of a rural area. Let's not go too far outside the box, right? So frankly, going to VRF was a little bit outside the box, even more in 2019 than now. And in fact, doing dedicated DHU, that's become more normal. But we have a fantastic ventilation system.
That's right. We've got a Zender system in here that's going to bring fresh air 24/7 to this client.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another kind of big picture thing that a consultant or engineer can bring to the architecture team very early on is, look, of course you're going to heat and cool the house. That's thermal comfort. How do you ventilate the house? How do you filter the air in the house? When do you filter the air, which should be all the time, all the time when it's occupied? And how do you control humidity in the house? So what we're able to do there is to help the architect plan a system that is really not so much biased by the local industry culture, because the architect is the role in society that says, I am designing this home, and I'm not just designing the architectural expression, visual, spatial expression. I'm designing the wall systems. I'm designing the mechanical systems. If you'll notice, like, this is in the architectural set.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So this is part of designing a home that is currently often left off the table for this thing called design build, which is mainly build. So this in our opinion, and frankly, you and I talked about this for a long time, this is our goal, our role in the industry is to make this design process and the functional outcomes that come from it more normal and more mainstream.
I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Christoph, I think we've gotten a couple of takeaways, but if someone's interested in your services, over the years I've talked about people really should get an independent mechanical design. Don't just have your HVAC contractor design build it. Have somebody like you, and I've recommended a bunch of others like Energy Vanguard and others to do mechanical design. This is actually kind of before that. This is oftentimes, this is done at the schematic design where your architect really just has a floor plan and maybe one elevation where they can hire you guys to do this. I'm sure there's some other firms out there in the world that could do it. Maybe they're not doing it regularly. This is not cheap though, right? This is at a minimum like $10K for these guys to come do it. It's a lot of work. This is not a big money maker, but it's money well spent. Yeah. Any other advice on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of ways. One is that we're super lucky to get to work with some architects that have clients that just say, make it right. And so we work hourly for them, which is fantastic. But most of the projects, we come in for a fixed fee. We are part, like the enclosure work, the passive systems work, we are basically an extension of the architect's office. That fee often doesn't even get shown to the client. The architecture is saying, yeah, I'm gonna pay that fee because I'm part of you. Now, we haven't talked about the energy and water systems yet. The mechanical pre-design, the energy and water system, which I'd love to talk about in a minute, but those go to the client because they're detailed client interviews needed for them. But the point is the money. The money is $2 a square foot for the passive and the resilient, $3 a square foot. No, $3 a square foot for that. So let's say it's a $3 a square foot is probably a third to a half of construction costs, right? And
Of 1% of construction
Oh, excuse me, a
costs.
third to a half of 1% of construction costs,
Yeah.
right? So not even a 1% of construction costs, and yet it's not normal. It's considered like out there, and I really want it to become normal. And to pull the rug out from under my own business model, we work with architects 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 projects. They get it.
Yep.
We can then go on to the next architect. They really got to get it. And one thing that happens a lot with the daylighting, it's been striking, and the integrity and humility of architects is impressive. They will say to us in the beginning, "Oh no, I don't need the daylight modeling. I understand how to do daylighting." And then we'll do the daylight modeling, and they'll go, "Oh, I understood general principles of daylight modeling. I didn't understand them specifically here." And so if you say, "Look, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving Day, Easter, or some other holiday, where is the light? Where is the glare? Where is the thermal discomfort?" Yeah, it's awesome.
I love it, man.
So they're like, "Yeah, I get it generally, but I didn't get it specifically."
Super good, Christoph. Guys, we should probably wrap this up so we don't take too long. I want to say big thanks to Daniel for having us out of the job. He's killing this project. Christoph, you and your team at Positive Energy, amazing, amazing people. But there are others that could probably do this for you as well. The point of this video is to think about all these things prior to moving on from schematic design. Because once you get into the CDs and the plans to build a house and bring it to a builder, a lot of what we're talking about is baked in and it's too late. And I can't even tell you how many times I've gotten plans where I'm like, well, where are we going to put the ductwork on this house? Where's the mechanical rooms? There's no room for this. This house has way too much glass. And by the way, glass is really expensive. And it's not going to be very comfortable in July or in December. So the point of this video is for you to think about those houses really early on, potentially bring a consultant like the engineers at Positive Energy in early to think about it so that we can really make sure that we're designing and building good houses so that when I as the builder show up, a lot of this has already been well thought out. Guys, I'm going to put a link to Positive Energy in the description. And by the way, we're headed back to the studio next to do like an hour-long version of this on a podcast. Check out our podcast too. We've got both a visual podcast over on buildshownetwork.com, and of course you can download the Build Show podcast on all of your favorite podcasting, iTunes, iHeartRadio, all that kind of stuff. Guys, follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show.